This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Welcome back to another episode of the Failing Adds Up podcast. My name is Antonio Romero, and alongside with me on every single episode, I got
Jorge Ibarra Gonzalez. I think that's my go-to line now, also known as Junior.
It has to be, man. It's too iconic to change it up now.
Right. Yeah, man.
So, how's everything been, man?
Man, it's going. The world is evolving. Is that a good word for it? Right now, there's a lot of cool stuff happening, a lot of also weird stuff happening, AI, all this other stuff, which maybe we'll get into a whole another episode about that when it's just you and I. Yet ultimately, just it's cool to hear. We were just talking about how we have followers and listeners from all over the world, right? Yeah,
we got to give them a shout out. So if memory has it, it's England, Spain, Dominican Republic, Ireland, Venezuela, Philippines, Honduras,
Mexico,
and Mexico.
Oh, and the United States of America.
Yeah, of course.
So, a big shout out to all of our viewers that continue to grow out there. Thank you so much. It's just an honor, just being able to do this. It's so much fun, so much passion going into this. And today we're super excited that we get to interview someone super fun and just someone that I've always enjoyed being around. There's certain people that give you energy and just are so genuine and down to earth that you always want to be around. And this is one of those people, right? And on top of that, we get to kind of hear a little bit about everything that's gone on with his family's life and currently happening and in the future. And we want to go ahead and introduce Mr. Josh Mosqueda. He's a third-generation owner of Tasty Tacos, one of the best places to eat here in Iowa, at least right now. For now, it's in Iowa, and just one of the coolest people you'll ever get to know. And so, again, Josh, thank you for coming on with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Heck
hey,
yeah.
It's always a good time to see you, man. I know we got to get back out there and play some golf, though.
Yeah, we do. No doubt about it. I think this is the first year that we haven't had our annual little tournament thing, so we got a little time. So
we have to do it.
Yeah, we got to do it.
It's tradition at this point. We just need to still come up with a name for it, though.
I know it.
Yeah. We will. And I feel like there's just so much laughter and so much fun happens at those events, and I can't wait for the next one.
Right.
Well, cool, Josh. Again, I'm super excited because what I like about podcasts is like we get to have like a cool conversation and get to know you from a different perspective, right? Like obviously we have a lot of fun doing, going golfing and just hanging out. This just gets into kind of a more intimate, like getting to know who you are and just a different light, right?
Sure,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So one of the ways we like to kind of start things, we always like to start kind of where you want to start. And I know like Tasty Tacos, right? Like, man, that's a brand that everybody knows in Iowa.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But it wasn't always that way, right? Like, how did this all? I really want to know how like all of this happened. How far back do you need to go for this to shed light on what Tasty Tacos is, the vision, the family legacy? Like, let's start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my grandparents started it in 1961, and they started it with a $500 loan. And they started with one restaurant. I think there was like 3 or 4 tables in it, all like handmade, hand-me-down tables. Just real super small, and I believe it was takeout only. Okay. And so that started in 1961, obviously before my time, before your guys' time. And
where did this exactly start? Where in Iowa?
Yeah, where was the very first
location? So the very first one was on the east side of Des Moines. It's not the one on 1400 East Grand. A lot of people think that's the original one. But the original one started in 1961. I believe it was on East 23rd and Searle. So if you get off the Easton exit on the east side, like kind of where the Kmart used to be, there's like a Casey's Bait and Tackle over there.
Oh, yeah.
It was like catty corner from that.
What? So was it a house?
I'm not sure if it was a house or a little building or a little building inside of a house. I'm not really sure. Obviously, I wasn't alive at that time.
Yeah.
But that's where it started, and it was there for 2 years. And then so in 63, they bought some property over at East Grand. So they bought a house over there, and then it was in front of their house. So, like, you'd have to walk down a couple steps from their kitchen, and it went into a little restaurant where there was about 6 or 7 tables.
How did the idea of starting this come about? Like, why all of a sudden, like, was it always called Tasty Tacos originally? And like, was it like because everybody really like, was it the recipe or like the family events? What stirred the idea to go into the restaurant industry? Do you know?
Yeah, so the story that I've been told from my grandparents is that there was I don't know if he was a singer or actor or both, but Bing Crosby. You guys might have heard of him, an older guy. But he wrote a book or was in the paper or something that he created a Mexican restaurant. He started a Mexican restaurant out in California. And so my grandfather was reading the paper or the book, whatever it was in, and he was like, hey, if this guy can start a Mexican restaurant, I can start a Mexican restaurant. And so that's kind of how the idea started. My grandfather was a barber before he did this. He sold insurance before he did this. He did all that while he did this, too, to make ends meet. But, yeah, that was kind of his job before he started the restaurant. So in 61, him and my grandmother, like I said, they got the loan from a family friend. Started the restaurant, super small. They were open 7 days a week till, I think, midnight every day. And, yeah, that's how it started.
And do you know if, like, at the beginning, like, was it an instant hit? Or was it? Tell us about that story.
Yeah, so it wasn't an instant hit at all. Matter of fact, they thought about shutting the doors multiple times. And there was a couple locations that they had over the years where they did shut the doors because it just wasn't working. But from what I hear, the first 20 years was really barely making it week by week. Really wasn't making any money. My dad, he had five siblings. They all worked in the restaurant growing up. And basically the story was my grandparents made them work because if you wanted to eat, you had to work. Okay. That was kind of their thing, you know what I mean? So they didn't get paid for it. They just had to work so they could eat dinner. So, yeah, that's how it went. And it was a struggle for a long time. And really, I don't think it really got successful until like the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was about 30 years where they were just grinding. You know, it was steady, not all the time, but they were able to keep the lights on for 30 years. And then in the 90s is when we started opening more restaurants. And now, obviously, we have 6 locations, but yeah, in the 90s is kind of when it started taking off.
And have you ever had any of these types of conversations with your grandparents about those early years? And I mean, even just those 30 years of difficulty and battling and kind of like where they got that mindset and even just wanting to continue. Like, why? Why did they keep at it after so long?
That's a good question. So my grandfather passed away in 2000, but my grandmother's 93 years old and still in great shape, has her mind with her. So I talk to her all the time. And, yeah, basically to go back to your question, they stuck at it because, you know, they didn't want to fail, even though they did a couple times. But they basically, you know, this fed their whole family. And so if this wouldn't have worked, they don't know.
It's the only option.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the only option. So that's kind of why they kept at it. And then, you know, year by year, it got a little better, a little bigger. And then now it's just, you know, we got 6 locations and they're all super busy, thank God. And we're just really fortunate to kind of be where we're at.
Dang, that's cool. Well, did you ever get any stories from your dad or your grandma or grandpa, like a funny story or a troublesome story or something that, with like growing up in this industry or stuff that wasn't working that you like find memorable or would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of a ton.
Yeah.
But the story I hear a lot is that they were open 7 days a week. Now we're open Monday through Saturday, 11 to 10, so we're closed on Sundays. But they were open 7 days a week until midnight. And so when my dad and his brothers were 18, 19, that age, you know, they don't want to work till midnight on the weekends. You know, who does?
Yeah, they want to go party.
But they had to. You know, they didn't have a choice. And like I said, originally when we had the restaurant in front of my grandmother's house, it was connected to the house. So if they were home, they were working.
Oh, wow.
You know, I mean, it's not like you could just say, yeah, I mean, I'm sick, I got to go home. I mean, your home is that. So, but yeah, I mean, there's other times where, you know, my aunts or whatever maybe wanted to go out with their friends or, yeah, I mean, just lots of stories. Nothing that really comes to mind right now, though.
But just putting in that work, right? You know, home life and work life were one unified life, it sounds like, right? Yeah. As it was evolving. So, well, cool. So then growing up, like now, like, you know, Josh is born. right? And so what do you like growing up in an entrepreneurship family,
Right.
like and like tell us a little bit about your life and how you grew up. What are some of the memories you have as a kid and some whether they're tied to Tasty Tacos or not, it doesn't matter, but like who is Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Des Moines.
Yeah.
Had a great life, born in 1987. So,
Hey.
yeah, I mean, it was great. I had 3 brothers and sisters. We all played sports. We all had a good time, but we all had to work. And so every weekend, I remember starting when I was 14, younger than that, but definitely when I was 14, every weekend we were working. If it was a summer break, we're working. If it was winter break, we're working. Like, we didn't really have a choice. And at the time, none of us really liked it, but we had to because we didn't have a choice. I mean, we were getting paid, so that was nice. We'd get our paycheck every Friday, and when you're 14 years old, even if it's a $75 paycheck, you're rich. You're thinking, you got it going on. You know what I mean? So if you did that for the whole summer, you stack like 10 of those away, maybe you have $750 or $1,000 for the summer. Like, you're doing good.
Getting that Xbox,
Right.
Maybe some new Jordans.
Right. So that was cool. That was fun to always be able to, have a job to where I didn't really need to go out and look for one. Like, we had one there. And not only did we have an opportunity to work for the family, like, they needed us, because our nights and weekends are the busiest time for our restaurant, but that's also the time that's the hardest shift we are able to fulfill, because nobody wants to work nights and weekends. Well, that's our busiest time. So it was always like, okay, Josh, like, I need you Friday and Saturday till 10 o'clock. Well, when you're in high school, that's not something you want to do. But that's what we did, and that's what all my cousins did, and it's worked out.
And when you started working, how many locations did you guys have at that time and point?
When I started working, I know we had at least probably 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe even 6. I don't remember. Throughout my time that I can remember, there's been a couple that's closed since, and we've rebuilt some since. But yeah, from my earliest memory, we've always had at least probably 4 or 5.
And that, like, going back, just backtracking just a little bit here, because your parents started to make you work at a young age,
Right.
just exactly how they did, or at least your father did.
Right.
So, like, was there a shift or like a click or something that happened there where your dad, it seemed like at some point he kind of accepted it and took over the business in a sense? Because, like you mentioned, at first he didn't want to be working.
Yeah, no, and they all, my dad and all of his brothers and sisters, they all had different jobs kind of once they became adults. I know my dad used to work at Firestone. My aunt, Linda, who's the CEO of the company right now, she moved to Colorado with her husband at the time. They had a couple kids, so she was doing her thing out there. So we've all had, they all had different jobs at one point. But when the business really started to take off, it just made so much sense that to pool our resources together, come back home, work for the family, and see what we could do with this thing. And that's where we're at right now. And over the last 15 years, 20 years, it's really blown up, with business and just the other things we're doing, like with the hot sauce and seasoning and stuff like that. But the most important thing is we have such a loyal fan base that, like you said, everybody that's from Des Moines has heard of this brand, and we take a lot of pride in that. And we want to keep that going. We don't want it to diminish. And, we're 62 years strong right now. We're blessed that it's been 62 years strong, but we definitely want to go another 62 years.
Heck yeah. I mean, I can't remember what the statistic is, but it's pretty high up there in the restaurant industry of restaurants that are new and open have like an 80 to 90% failure rate within the first like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I'm a big restaurant guy. I love to go out to eat, so I go to other Mexican restaurants all the time. I go to restaurants all the time, Italian, whatever it is. And, some of them have stood the test of time and have been around 10 plus years. Some of them are only around for 5 years. And I get it because I know how hard it is. It takes 100 plus hours a week to work. There's people calling in all the time. It's just kind of what it is. So
Why do you think it is so hard, other than those like 2 reasons?
Well, let's say you had a family and you had a kid or 2 at home and a wife. If you wanted to open up a restaurant, it's so much work because it consumes your whole life. I mean, you guys know what it's like being entrepreneurs. I mean, you guys, I'm sure there's not enough time in the day for you guys. But with the restaurant industry, it's basically from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. And usually by the time you go home and go to bed, there's book work to do, so it's just a 24-hour job. It can be very rewarding, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that level of success requires a certain level of sacrifice, right? And it's some people aren't willing to go that far, or don't even realize what they're, what it takes until they're in it. And they're like, do I do it? Do I not? Or does it succeed? Because now, I mean, again, 60 plus years, like 62, is that what you said?
62, yeah.
62, man. Again, you're an anchor, right? Like this brand is an anchor here in Des Moines and the whole state of Iowa. Like everybody knows what Tasty Tacos is. You know? And like how many like restaurants actually get to that point? I don't even know. It's got to be even smaller percentage.
Yeah, so we started before Taco John's. We started before Taco Bell. Like
what?
we were before
that is crazy
all that.
when you put it into that perspective.
Right. Yeah, and so and I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I heard is we were the first Mexican restaurant in Des Moines. 1961, you figure that was 62 years ago. I mean, it's very possible we could have been the first Mexican restaurant in Des Moines. But obviously there's many good restaurants now. But yeah, if you think about before being Taco Bell, Taco John's, that's nuts. And, but I look at Taco Bell and Taco John's and I'm like, okay, they haven't been around for as long as we have, but look at them. They're all over. I mean, everybody in the world knows Taco Bell.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're hoping at one point everybody in the world knows Tasty Tacos.
Dang.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a glimpse into what's coming, huh?
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so I kind of want to know about like your family dynamics. So like it sounds like you have a lot of cousins. How big is your family, and what does the family gatherings look like when y'all get together?
is it just a bunch of tasty tacos everywhere? Like,
no, a lot of people think that. But usually when we get together,
hey, when we went to your wedding, you had tasty tacos. So.
Yeah, we did. Well, I just felt like because a wedding needs a good late night snack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
dude,
I
that hit
figured
the spot.
Oh, dude, it was like midnight or 1 a.m. and I was like, yes.
Yeah, I had a couple of the ladies that worked for me. They came in. I think it was 10:30. And they brought in like 300 or 400 tacos.
Oh.
And like
Dude, I think I ate like 50 of those.
I mean, I'll never forget like seeing the line of all the guests at the wedding lined up eating tacos. And I was like, okay, are they here for me or are they here for the tacos? No, it was, but yeah, back to your question. When the family gets together, I don't know how many there is of us. There's a lot, probably 70, 80.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, because, I'm 36 and I'm one of the younger cousins for third generations, and so all my cousins have kids, you know what I mean? Some of their kids even have little kids now. So when we get together, and unfortunately we don't get together as much as we used to, but you know how it is when you get older, it's harder to get together with people. But when we do get together, it's always a good time. Try to get together at grandma's house, or sometimes we'll rent a small like hall out to get everybody together. But no, I mean, we have a good time. We reminisce. We like to play Scrabble. We get pretty
Scrabble
intense.
family, huh?
Yeah, we're a big Scrabble family, yeah. So it gets pretty intense. But yeah, no, it's just always a good time seeing everybody. And then obviously not everybody in my family is associated with the business.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have kind of went their own way and wanted to do something else, and I completely respect that. And quite frankly, I don't blame them sometimes. You know what I mean? So.
And how does that dynamic look working in the family business, working and being in business with your aunt, your dad? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. We all love each other. But, there's definitely an order of, kind of who's in charge and who does what, who delegates. And even though some of us may not always like that, it's worked and it's still working. So, like, you almost have to have that. You have to have somebody that's delegating, like, Josh, you're taking care of X, Y, and Z. Rick, you're taking care of A, B, and C. With 6 restaurants and multiple properties and with the hot sauce and seasoning now, you have to, be in charge of certain stuff. One person can't do it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then, like, how do you guys handle tough conversations? Because at the core, there's love for the family. But sometimes as entrepreneurs and business people, you have to have tough conversations or even just share a vision of where this might go. Like, how do you guys kind of keep that straight and still not, like, tarnish the relationship within family members? Like, do you guys, Is it delegation, or is it like, do you guys put on different hats, or like, how do you do it? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a different hat in the organization. There's about 8 of us that, are owner-operators of the business. And so if there's an important decision to be made, we'll get together at the table and we'll talk about it. We'll say, hey, this is where I want to go. Someone might say, this is where I think we should go. But at the end of the day, like, this business is feeding our whole family. It's feeding our family's family. We've got 100+ employees of people that that depend on a paycheck every Friday. So that's the main thing, is that when we're kind of doing hard conversations, at the end of the day, we know that it's for the betterment of the business, because the business supports us.
Yeah, and you're feeding tens of thousands of other people in the city.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the customers, can't forget the customers.
I'm there every week, man. I'm there every week. So it's a tradition at our house. We go once a week, So
yeah,
no, that's super cool. So then, like, how has the company evolved since you've been in it? Like, you kind of hit on the hot sauce and the seasonings. Like, can you like take us down that path? How has it evolved? It sounds like you even like built your own buildings. Like, how has it evolved since you've started to be in the industry?
Yeah, so I've been back with the company full time since 2010. I graduated from college in 2009 and just kind of wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I kept working with the family. And so around 2010, I decided, hey, like, this is an opportunity that I can't pass up. This is such a brand in the Des Moines area, and there's so much room for growth that it just kind of made sense. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so since 2010, I think we've added one more store. So we've got one out in West Des Moines on Mill Civic Parkway, kind of by Jordan Creek Mall.
Yeah.
We've rebuilt a couple locations. So there's one in Ankeny that is probably about 10 years old now.
What do you mean by rebuilt? Like, it was there before?
So the Ankeny one, we didn't rebuild. That was a brand new one about 10 years ago. But like our one on Southeast 14th. So
okay.
My family's owned the land out there for a long time. They used to own a motel and a bar there, and there was a much smaller Tasty Tacos. So we decided probably 15 years ago to tear it all down, clear the land, and build about a 3,500 square foot restaurant. So we've done that to a couple different locations, because as the years has gone by, business has gotten better. So we needed bigger buildings. We needed more parking. 8 tables, 10 tables in a restaurant wasn't cutting it. So we need 20, we need 30 tables. So that's kind of what we did. And we did it very, very slowly, because we feel like if you're going too fast, that's kind of a recipe for disaster. So a lot of people ask us every day, like, hey, why don't you have one in Cedar Rapids, or why don't you have one in Kansas City? Well, we want them there, believe me, and we're coming there. But, it's going to take time, and it's going to take resources, and it's going to, we kind of move a little slow, but it's worked for us.
Yeah, it's worked for you. And what's cool about your buildings, they're very recognizable, because you even pay attention to that level of detail, right, of what the building looks like and everything.
Right.
So it's super cool. Like, and we'll post some pictures and everything here on all our social media profiles, so you guys can kind of see that visual aspect of it too. So then how did this come about? Who brought this vision or the hot sauce and the seasoning into the whole mix? I'm curious.
Yeah, so one of my family members, her name's Jenny. This was not just her idea, but she was kind of a driving force behind, hey, like, what else can we do to kind of branch off from the restaurant a little bit? We don't want to get too far away from the restaurant, because that's the most important thing for us. But, like, how can we reach a wider audience? And so it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, the idea started circulating, like, hey, why don't we sell hot sauce in stores? That way we can, if there's a customer that lives somewhere else in Iowa City or Omaha, and they're in a Hy-Vee or they're in a Fairway, they can still get our hot sauce. And so that's kind of how the idea came about. And then I reached out to you about Betty from Sonora Tortilla.
Yeah.
And because we knew that Betty was in Hy-Vee and Fairway. Shout out Betty, by the way.
Yes.
And so I remember we had that meeting at Star Bar on Ingersoll. You remember
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, like you mentioning it, and I was like, one of the superpowers I have is I just like connecting people. You know? And like, I'm like, you got to meet Betty. And then I remember setting it up and then walking into Star Bar, and I was like, oh, wow. I got nervous immediately, because I saw the whole, Tasty Taco family.
Yeah,
there.
we brought the whole fam out. I mean, not the whole family, but
the decision maker,
the one that's making decisions. And so I remember you looking like, wow, like I didn't know there was gonna be all these people here. But yeah, no, there was.
It was a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
I mean, very well. Everyone's always very welcoming. But I was like, oh, this is like in my back of my head, it was a little like celebrity like kind of moment, right? Like, I'm like, oh, dude, this is the family, right?
This is the Mosqueda.
yeah. So it was cool to kind of see that kind of come to life a little bit, and to add a little like perspective, at least from my opinion, and I bet you it's the same for everyone else who's had the hot sauce at Tasty Tacos. Y'all don't understand that, like, this is how much, and keep in mind, when I was an engineer, we had engineers flying from all over the world. And one of the first stops that they had to go to is Tasty Tacos. Like people from Russia, Brazil, Philippines. And here's the thing. You sit in a booth at Tasty Tacos. There's 4 of you there, right? And there they put the hot sauce bottle, right? With so you can squeeze it.
Yep.
People will fight you for that because it's not enough to just put a little taco sauce on the taco. You will notice that everybody grabs a taco, sauce, bite, sauce, bite, sauce, bite. You know what I mean? And so, like, even when my wife and I go out to eat at Tasty Tacos, she has her own bottle. I have my own bottle because it's like sauce, bite.
Yeah,
right?
so there's basically 2 kinds of people in this world. One that put hot sauce on every bite, and then there's people that just kind of fill the taco up with hot sauce before they eat it. I'm a one every bite kind of guy.
I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
So Josh, talk to us a little bit about more what we do have in front of us, because it looks like these are different, right? This is the hotter one.
Yeah, so we just came out with the mild sauce probably a year ago, but the hot sauce came about, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago, and it took like 2 years to kind of get it down because it gets mass produced. I mean, it gets produced in Nebraska. A company takes care of all that. We send them peppers, and they obviously have our recipe, and they'll make a whole run, a 48-hour run, where their machines are going through nothing but our ingredients, and they finally got it dialed down to exactly how we want it, which took 2 years of trial and error to get down. Yeah. So
you tried a lot of hot sauce, in other words.
Tried a lot of hot sauce.
Well, I remember after that meeting with Betty at Star Bar, like, you guys just kind of got an intro into maybe some of the dynamics of how she spread out. But yeah, I was just like, dude, I'm ready for the hot sauce to hit the store. And it was like forever after that.
It took a minute. No, it took a long time. Like I said, a lot of trial and error. But basically how it comes about is we have a local guy that owns a farm here in town. And his farm, he specifically grows jalapeno peppers just for us, just for Tasty Tacos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so in season, like right now it's in season, so every week, every Monday, we're getting anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 jalapeno peppers delivered directly from his farm to one of our locations. And then we've got a crew of about 15 people that work to, we take in the peppers, we de-stem them, we clean them, we cook them, we freeze them. And so it takes about, 4 or 5 days to a week to kind of get it to where it's frozen. And then we'll send it to a cold storage unit. And then that cold storage unit eventually gets sent to Nebraska, where they use our peppers for the hot sauce.
Oh, wow.
So they'll make a run. So this company out there, they'll make a run. And a 48-hour run will, I don't even know how much hot sauce it is, but there's like 96 cases on a pallet. A run will be like 100 pallets.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hot sauce, and they're doing it quite a bit.
And are you guys still, like, making your own hot sauce in store locations, in restaurant locations?
Nope. So now everything gets mass-produced. So what you see here is the smaller 16-ounce bottles, but at our store we get gallons sent to us. So there's 4 gallons in a case. So basically how it works is at the store level, whoever's the manager and does the ordering, they'll order if they need 20 cases delivered that week, they order it from our ordering app, and then it gets delivered from a third party. And we'll use that at the store, and we'll just kind of mix it up, run it through the blender, and make sure it's all good. And then we put it in the bottles, and we put it in the little cups to go.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I order gallons too now?
You can, because you can do anything you want, my friend.
Okay,
You're going to have a gallon every week
I'm
delivered.
just saying.
He's like, whose address is this? It's getting a gallon every
I'm
week.
just saying we go through this stuff a lot, you know. So
no, we don't typically sell the gallons though, but for your guys' case, I can probably make an exception.
Hey, let's go.
And then we also have the seasoning mix.
So the seasoning, that's kind of a new thing too. So basically that packet there is good enough for 1 pound of ground beef. So if you're cooking ground beef at home, you're probably cooking, 1, 2, maybe 3 pounds for the family. You just add that in with your meat, you mix it up, you drain the grease, and you basically got Tasty Tacos ground beef.
Are you guys expanding on this, like the shells, or like any more on some of this stuff too, like, or?
We would like to. That's not really in the future. We haven't kind of figured out. It's definitely in the talks. We want to grow and we want to expand. We have a lot of people that come in the restaurant and they'll say, hey, I'm going down to Kansas City or I'm going to Chicago and I'm taking 20 tacos to my friends and family there.
Yeah.
And they're like, is there any way we can freeze these? And unfortunately, we don't have a way to do that yet. Nada es imposible, which is our motto. So hopefully down the road we can figure that out. But for right now, I mean, everything is handmade. So that's another thing I wanted to touch on, was that we've got 6 locations, like I said before, and some people are so loyal to a certain location that you'll kind of hear like, oh, the one on the south side's got the best shells, or the one on the west side, puts more meat in it. Everything at Tasty Tacos, like our tacos are handmade from the moment we get the ground beef. We get ground beef delivered every single day. We've got a lady that cooks it all day long, and everything's handmade. The dough, the taco shells, like everything. So
that's why it's so good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if it was like a big machine that maybe some of these big chains do, that's why, like, if you go to McDonald's, right? If you go to a McDonald's here in Des Moines, or if you go to one in Mexico City, you're going to get the exact same double cheeseburger, whether it's here or Mexico City. Mm-hmm. So we look at that and we say, how do they do that? Like, that's how we want to be. Well, from whatever we found out so far was, everything is pre-made, pre-ordered, goes in a machine, and that's not how we do it at Tasty Tacos. Like, everything's handmade. So, like, the lady that's making your tacos on the south side might have smaller hands than the man that's making your tacos in Ankeny. So, it just kind of depends.
Yeah. Well, no, even just the taco shell, like, it's doughy, it's fresh, it's when you bite into it, and just melts in your mouth. Like, everything is so fresh. You could totally tell the difference between you guys and the other restaurants. It's so cool.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's so cool. It sounds like there's so much work that gets put behind the scenes. I didn't know that level, like the jalapenos, the meat, like every single day. So, like, who's behind the scenes making sure like that all 6 restaurants have everything they need? Is it the managers, or is there like additional like procedures in place to make sure like things are operating well?
So, like I said, there's about 8 of us that own and operate the business. So with 6 locations, one of us kind of has each store. So I run the one in Urbandale, and so I oversee everything out there. So my sister runs the one on East Grand down by the Capitol, and the list goes on. So everybody's got their own store that they kind of oversee. Now we try to delegate our managers that work for the store to, order enough meat for the day or order whatever it takes. But yeah, there's a family member that's overseeing every store right now. Yep.
Oh, super cool.
And do you know, like, over time, has the recipe changed at all, or has it always been the same recipe for 62 years?
It's always been the same recipe for 62 years. And from what I heard, it would have been my grandfather's aunt recipe from Mexico. So obviously I've never met the lady, but the recipe's great.
Yes, it is. Dang. And it's locked up in a vault somewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
What part of Mexico does your family come from?
So we're from Guanajuato.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
so,
gotcha.
and I've never been there, but it's just west of Guadalajara. Have either of you guys been to that area?
I haven't, but we have roots to Las Chivas,
Okay.
Guadalajara Chivas.
Yeah.
My family's from Nayarit, which is the state right next to Guadalajara.
Oh, really?
So we're right over there.
Yeah, so Guanajuato, Irapuato.
Yeah.
But I've never been there. I know I want to go there. We've still got family that's from there. But, you know, I was born in America. My dad was born here, and my grandparents were born here. So I'm third generation American. We're very proud to be. But we're also really proud of our, you know, Latino heritage as well. I would love to get back to where my family's from. But right now, anytime I go to Mexico, you know, we like to go to the beach or something. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to do that if you go to Mexico, I feel like, you know?
Always
gotta take a picture with tasty tacos right on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's what's up. So, like, now in your, like, professional career, being super involved, super immersed, and being one of the 8 that helped kind of take the direction of it, like, what are some of the, like, hardest things you've learned, or any lessons you've learned as just being an entrepreneur or a businessman? Like, what pieces of advice would you give to someone out there in the restaurant industry, like, of things that you've learned that they could take and maybe use in their own world?
Start small. You know, it's like the restaurant really is basically all I do right now. So I would say it's so hard and it takes so many hours. Like, don't try to go too big. Don't try to go too fancy. I see a lot of restaurants that open up and you walk in and you're just like, wow, like chandeliers or like blue lights here. And it's a beautiful place, and all I can think of when I walk in there is that costs so much money. You know what I mean? So I would say start small. Definitely don't think it's going to be a side hustle, because it's not. It's going to overcome your life. You know, kiss your family goodbye, kiss your friends goodbye, especially for the first 5 years if you're lucky. But see, I'm fortunate. I mean, I had a blueprint in front of me. And so we're just using that blueprint because it's worked. Yeah. So, you know, I can't sit here and say I started my own restaurant. If I had, who knows, I might have failed. Yeah. But we have a blueprint in front of us that's worked for 62 years, and we tweak it a little bit here and there, but we know we don't want to go too far from it because it's proven to work.
Yeah. Well, what's cool, and, like, this is just me looking from the outside in, is, like, power to you and the ones that are continuing to build it and keep it going, because I'm sure it's very tempting sometimes to go try to really reproduce a blueprint, right? And you're like, but this is what works. So you've learned already from previous generations, like, stick to it because this continues to work, and then just kind of continue to grow at the pace you guys want to grow at.
Right. Which is a slow pace, but we're okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of, I guess on average, we start a new restaurant every 10 years, which that might sound long, but we want to make sure we do it right. You know, we don't want to open a restaurant that is not going to be the quality that we're used to producing. We don't want to open a restaurant that's going to, you know, not make it for 5 years. You know, like when we decide to open a new restaurant, there's a lot of thought process that goes behind it. There's a lot of due diligence that goes behind it, and just a lot of time and effort. So we definitely want to get some new restaurants going, but with only 8 of us kind of operating it right now, we're like, okay, how are we going to do that? You know what I mean? Obviously, at some point, somebody that's not in the family is going to have to run a restaurant. So we're at that point right now where we're trying to create kind of a blueprint for that. You know, if somebody wants to possibly own a franchise down the road, you know, how are we going to go about that?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. And then I'm sure that's going to take a good amount of effort, time, energy, and money to, like, figure out how to create that blueprint to make it make sure that someone else can copy paste essentially right inside your model, right? So what else are you looking forward to, like, of what's coming, whether it's in your own personal life or in what you're building in the business side of things? Like, what else is coming?
So I got a kid on the way.
Hey, congratulations.
When's the due
It's a
date?
boy.
It's a boy, yeah. And so we've got the name picked out, but we're not saying it yet.
It's not Tasty Tacos, is it?
It's not Tasty Tacos. No. But yeah, so we got a baby boy on the way here in a couple months. Is due right around New Year's. My wife Danny and I, and so, like, that's really, these last couple months has completely consumed my life, you know, because that's obviously such a big change. Neither of us have kids, so it's just like, okay, oh my God, this is crazy. But with that being said, it's completely changed my personal game plan. You know, like, I'm laser focused now because it's not just me and my wife that I got to worry about now. It's a child, you know, that's going to completely depend on me and my wife. And so that's kind of stressful. I feel like there is a lot of weight on my shoulders, but I'm super happy. Wouldn't want it any other way. But with that being said, I definitely want to keep growing what we have going, so I can give my kid the same kind of life that my parents gave me, if not better. And not to say I didn't have a bad life, because I had a great life.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's really changed the game plan, and I'm laser focused on that.
That's cool. Is the baby room ready?
No.
You got time.
Yeah, I got a little time, so I got it cleared out, but I got to get it repainted and, you know, just do all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, no, we're excited.
Yeah. I asked that because same with us. It's like, you know, it's like I remember our firstborn, Max, and I'm like, man, we didn't get that room ready till about 2 weeks before. We're like hustling and grinding, and like because there's so much other stuff going on, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But it's cool, man. I'm so excited for you. You're gonna be a great dad.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I mean, it's something I've always wanted. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm 36, so I did start a little later in life for that. But I also feel like it's the right time. I mean, if this would have happened 10 years ago, obviously I would have made it work. But there's no better time than now.
Heck yeah, that's what's up. I'm so excited for you. It changed your life for the good, you know, and so many good memories to come from that. So very, very cool. And so what other like pieces would you like to share, like to where can people like follow you guys? How do they stay in tune with what the next thing is happening in the Tasty Taco world, or what's happening in Josh's life? Like how do people reach out to you? What if someone from Kansas City if they wanted Tasty Tacos, how does that even happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have had people reach out to us, we don't have a really big social media presence.
Okay.
Like we would kind of like. And, you know, like I see your guys' social media with your personal ones and your business ones, and I'm like, dang, man, like that's awesome. That's a lot of work. But, like, we tried it. So we have a Facebook. So you can follow us on Facebook, Tasty Tacos. That's probably the best way to follow us and or get a hold of us. Like, if you write us a message on there, someone's going to see it. But other than that, like, Instagram, we do have one, but we don't really keep up to date on it. Stuff like that. We're just not super on the social networks, kind of like I wish we were. Yeah. But with the restaurants, they just take up so much of our time. It's like, oh, social media. That's one more thing we got to do now. You know what I mean? But yeah, if somebody wants to get a hold of us, follow us on Tasty Tacos Facebook. Send us a message. We're not at the point where we want to start franchising yet, but it's definitely something we're working on. You know, like I said, there's restaurants that do it, Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, Taco John's. I mean, you name it, the list goes on. Like, it's possible to franchise. Obviously, it works. And there was actually franchised Tasty Tacos in the past. In the early 90s, I know there was one in Pella.
Oh, really?
There was one in Omaha, and there was actually one in Ankeny before we built ours in Ankeny. And just for whatever reason, it never panned out. You know, that was I was a youngster, I was a kid, so I didn't know nothing about it. But from the stories I've been told, it just, for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So that kind of gave us a little salty taste in our mouth going forward about a franchise. But we're at the point now where we think that that's a good opportunity to grow. So, yeah, I mean, we look forward to hearing from people.
Heck yeah, that'll be exciting times once you guys roll that out. Because, like I said, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that want to, like, get immersed into that world. So it'll be interesting to figure out how you guys choose on who to partner with and how to partner with and all that good stuff.
Right.
So that's super cool. So, well, in regards to how to find your locations, I would assume maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, like people can Google it in regards to all the 6 locations that are currently up and running.
Yeah, so if you get on Google and Google Tasty Tacos, how it's supposed to work, I don't know if it always does, but it'll give you the closest location. So we're kind of down by the iCubs Stadium right now. So if you were to Google Tasty Tacos, I would assume it would kind of give you the details for the one over by the Capitol. But you can either call us and place an order over the phone, and it'll be ready in 10 or 15 minutes. You can always stop in and just place your order at the counter, which a lot of people do. We've got online ordering as well, so you can go to tastytacos.com, and we also have an app that is in the Apple Store or whatever phone you got, Tasty Tacos. You can download the app, fill out your information, and order everything through there, and you can either get it delivered or pick it up yourself. And we're also on like DoorDash and those kinds of things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What about, where is all of this? What stores are all these at?
Yeah, so we sell the mild sauce bottles and the hot sauce bottles at every one of our restaurants. We sell them for $5 each. Sometimes we run deals, buy 2, get 1 free. So that's a really good deal. But they're in like almost every Hy-Vee, every fairway. We're in 7 states with that, so that's kind of
cool.
That's kind of reaching a nice outlook there. But yeah, other than that, you can go to tastytacos.com. You can order any of this stuff. You can order the seasoning.
Oh, cool.
You can order shirts, sweatshirts. There's all sorts of stuff you can order. But we get a lot of the hot sauce and the mild sauce being ordered online. I know Jason Momoa stopped in.
Oh, really?
A couple years ago, he stopped in to one of the locations, I think, in Urbandale, and he stocked up on a bunch. Well, then like a month later, we had a big shipment go out to California. So I don't know if it was from him or not, but there was a big shipment that went out to California. So that's cool. I mean,
Have you had anyone else stop in, like celebrity-wise, other than Jason? Do you know?
Yeah, so Jason Momoa, Lisa Bluter, the Iowa women's basketball coach, just stopped in recently. George Kittle, he plays for the 49ers now, but he used to play for Iowa. He stopped in before. But like you said earlier, Junior, it's Tasty Tacos. Fortunately, it's one of the places when you come to Des Moines, like you have to stop there.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have to go there and eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's multiple places like I feel like Bebop's or Casey's Pizza or Anderson Erickson. Like these are all staples of Des Moines, and we're just lucky to be one of those staples.
No, seriously, it's so true the way you said that, because it's like even one of my old bosses who, spent 3 years here in Des Moines, and then he's out in Cincinnati. But the time we connect with each other, he's like, "Hey, coming through, I'll meet you at Tasty Tacos," right? Like, and he's only here like driving through, and I love like connecting with him, and we just meet at Tasty Tacos.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'll be at the restaurant working, and people will stop in, and they're like, "We just landed at the airport. We haven't even seen our friends and family yet. Like, we wanted to stop here." And they'll get lunch, and then you'll see them right before they're about to leave. So
yeah,
it's a good feeling. It's fortunate. Like I said, we've got over 100 employees that work for us, and I can't thank them enough, because without them, we would not be anywhere where we are today. Yeah. They work so hard, and a lot of times a lot of long hours, and so we try to reward them the best we can. I know many of them have bought houses from you guys.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of another driving factor with the business, that like we're not just trying to feed our family, we're not just trying to feed the people of Des Moines, but there's a lot of families that are directly, if we go under, if something doesn't happen, there's a lot of families that's directly gonna be impacted by that. So it's kind of on our shoulders all the time.
Yeah, it's cool that you say it like that, though, like, because it's not just about the bottom dollar. You're like, you're thinking that perspective of like, oh, there's a lot of lives we're touching.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that would get affected by that. So that's cool. So that speaks volumes to who you guys are from a culture perspective.
Yeah, and one question I also wanted to ask you, kind of touching on the point of the whole podcast with Failing Adds Up, right? And speaking about like trials and tribulations, and how, like, as you've mentioned throughout your story here, or the Tasty Tacos story, better said, it hasn't fully always been easy. So I know me and you met back around COVID time through Junior, right? That's how we connected. So do you have any like stories or anything that like happened during, like, how were those COVID years, and how were you guys impacted and affected by that?
Oh man, COVID was crazy. I mean, it was crazy for everybody, So I remember the exact day that we got word that basically we had to shut down the lobby to every restaurant. I think it was March 17th, but there's a regular customer that comes in, and he came in and ordered his usual, a beef enchilada and a beef taco, and he got it for there. And then the word came down that like we have to shut down the lobby immediately. So I remember telling him, and he was like the last person I saw that ate in Tasty Tacos for like 9 months. So we didn't know what to do, like everybody else. Like, we're scrambling, like, okay, well, we can't shut down. Like, how are we going to do this? So luckily, we had such a loyal fan base that we decided to do everything was to go only. So you could come in and order, but you couldn't sit down and eat it there. You had to take it to go. At first, it was great because it was mid-March, so the weather wasn't too bad, and then you got into, spring and summer, so people would eat outside kind of on the hoods of their cars, or we had set up a few tables outside. Some of our locations have tables outside. So they were kind of doing that, but then when it started to get fall and started to get cold again, well, nobody's trying to eat outside. We couldn't let people eat inside. But yeah, that was crazy times. I mean, everything was to go. It completely changed the game plan. We just kind of went with the flow. We didn't have a plan. We were just like, okay, this is what we're gonna do this week. Let's see if it works. Well, it worked. So we just kind of kept doing that, and so we had a really steady to go business at that time.
And was that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the time that the hot sauces were kind of, that idea was being brought up?
Yeah, so that was, let's see, 3 years ago. So, no, the hot sauce was already in effect by
Or
then.
at least selling. Oh, okay. You guys are already like selling them and stuff.
I think that's right when the hot sauce kind of hit the market. And that was another thing where during COVID, that was a nice source of revenue, these hot sauce selling at Hy-Vee, because you remember, like, I remember in particular Hy-Vee, you know, well, I guess all the places were doing curbside pickup, but you could order your groceries online and get it delivered or do curbside pickup, which kind of that was your only option, I guess, for a little bit. So that was kind of nice to be able to do that at that time. And yeah, that's right when the hot sauce came out, now that I think about it.
Wow, it's crazy how that works out then too, right?
Yeah, and we're really happy. Like during COVID, we kept everybody employed.
Yeah.
And that was the crazy thing, you know, where it's like I said earlier, you know, 100+ people that work for us. We're not trying to get rid of people. You know, there's people with mortgages, there's people with bills. We don't want to be the ones to tell them like, hey, we can't pay you anymore. So during COVID, that was real scary. But we made it through, and sounds like we're doing good now.
Heck yeah.
Going forward, you know, with everything.
Yeah, y'all persevered, and like, I mean, how did the family get together at that time to like push that through and make sure that you didn't let go of people? Like how were those conversations, or how did you guys kind of navigate through that a little bit?
Yeah, we were getting together every day.
Every day,
Yeah,
okay.
so our office is in Pleasant Hill. We were getting together every day and just saying, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, let's change this. Let's try that. Like, don't allow anybody to eat inside. And it worked, you know. And so, like I said, for spring and summer, like a lot of customers were mad about it. You know, they're like, well, you know, why can't we eat inside here? And like, we're just trying to, you know, kind of be down the middle for everybody. But I can tell you, when we did open the lobbies back up, people were happy. People were real happy, because there's nothing like sitting down at Tasty Tacos, getting a couple tacos and like a flour nacho with your bottle of hot sauce and just sitting there and eating it. I mean, it's 10 times better if you eat it there than it is to go. Everybody knows that.
It's the experience, huh?
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, COVID was crazy. Made it through. But yeah, I mean, you guys know better than anybody, business, it's like the ultimate sport, and it changes every day. You never know when something's going to happen, and you just got to adjust and adapt basically every day.
Yeah, so true. I like the way you like provided that perspective.
Yeah.
It is. Every day is a new day and a new challenge, right?
Yeah.
You're either going to get up or you're going to lay in bed and pull the covers over your head, right?
Right. And I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I wake up every day, I usually don't know how my day is going to go. I don't know if I'm going to work 20 hours that day or 3 hours that day. You know, it really just depends. I don't know until the end of my day, but it's also kind of nice because it's not the same every day. You know, you meet new people every day. There's always a new problem every day. But, you know, you just do what you can.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about all of this?
Oh, that's a good question. I would probably say just carry on my grandparents', you know, legacy. You know, back in the early 90s, Pepsi actually came about and tried to, they offered us to buy us out. And at the time, my grandfather said, no, we're not doing that. And at the time, it was a nice little chunk of change for just, you know, my grandparents. They could have easily sold the company and, you know, enjoyed their final days doing whatever they wanted to. But my grandfather had the vision to see that, hey, if we keep doing this, this is going to affect a lot of families in a positive way. So that's kind of where we're at. You know what I mean? We want to keep it going as far as we can and just kind of see how big we can get. You know, Pepsi's the parent company to Yum Corporation. Yum Corporation owns Taco Bell, Long John Silver's, A&W. So, like, anything's possible. I mean, you really never know what's going to happen. And so every day and every year, you know, we set goals and we try to hit them. We don't always hit them, but we try to hit them. And we feel like if we can keep working hard every year, we're going to get to where we want to go. So
That's super cool. So, man, this has been an awesome story, and we're going to definitely have to have you back because I can see the passion you have in, like, making this a worldwide brand, you know? So I can't wait to have you back as that starts to kind of flourish and whatnot. And so with that being said, who else do you want to shout out there? This is your moment to give any shout outs that you want to give shout outs to.
Oh man, there's so many people I want to shout out. Well, my wife, Danny, we just got married about a year ago. So she, sometimes if it's a long day at work, I'll come home and I try not to bring work home, but you guys know better than anybody. This isn't something you just leave at the door. You know what I mean? So shout out to her, my parents, my grandmother who's still alive. Like I said, she's 93 years old. She is the queen of the family. I mean, she's still involved. Like when we have these roundtable talks on a weekly basis, she's there. Now, she's not making decisions for the company anymore, but she's there. She's involved. I mean, her and my grandfather started it. So it's great to have her around. It's great to hear her input and all the things she's seen and been through. Man, there's so many people I could thank. I mean, I don't know where to start. I mean, you guys, you know what I mean? It's crazy to think, though, because, it's crazy how the world works. Because, this community, Des Moines, is such a small but big, tight-knit community. I mean, everybody's kind of helping everybody, So, there's people that we're employing that's buying houses from you guys, and then in turn you guys are helping holding community events and helping all these families find a place to live that might not otherwise have a place to live. And it's just crazy when you kind of sit back and look at it that everybody's got a hand in this community, and it just kind of makes you feel good to be here.
Heck yeah, it does. Yeah, no, it's cool the way you said that too. It is. Des Moines is a small but big community, and we're everybody helps everybody out, which is what kind of makes that Iowa nice, component super cool. So, well, very, very cool. Josh, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me, man.
Yeah, for being on here. It's a lot of fun. Again, it's so fun to kind of see a different, see that story come to life through your own words and hit on that. So again, till the next time, we're definitely going to have you on again.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime down the road, and I'm sure you guys will continue to blow up more. And, I mean, I'm looking forward to watching that. I'm always rooting for you guys, so can't wait to do it again.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
So much.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Make sure you guys, please go show some love over to Josh and the family at Tasty Tacos, like you mentioned, Facebook Tasty Tacos, or go to their website at tastytacos.com. Please show them that love. Let them know that we sent you their way. And once again, thank you guys so much for always tuning in and supporting us throughout this whole journey. It's been a fun one. It's been amazing here. So thank you for the support. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys do want to see any exclusive content, you guys can always follow us on our social media pages. It's going to be at Filling Ads Up Podcast. That's going to be our @ handle for all our social media pages, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at the moment. So we're always posting behind the scenes, things like that. So make sure you give us a follow. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you are new, please subscribe. I saw that 95% of our viewers are not subscribed. So please subscribe if you can. And once again, just thank you so much. Big shout out also to Amplified DSM. We want to thank them for always supporting and letting us use their beautiful, amazing studio here and their equipment. Shout out to Abraham in the back there, manning the camera. So if you want to look at any of their content or things that they're posting, go to amplifieddsm.com. Once again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates and central Iowa companies.